We envisioned a wonderfully green world, zero emissions. But no one asked the question, where are we going to get these freaking metals? If the 19th century has been a century of coal, and if the 20th century has been a century of oil, we're coming into an age in the 21st century which will be an age of metals. These metals have superpowers. Europe today is lagging behind China. We're moving from one dependency upon oil-producing countries to another dependency upon critical, rare, strategic metals producing countries. We're entering a new world, a new geopolitics, a geopolitics of the energy transition. When we talk about rare metals, we talk about metals which are more rare than base metals. Basically, in the nature, you have what we call base or abundant metals. Iron, copper, lead are base metals. And basically, in the Earth's crust, you don't only find these resources, you also find metals which are much more diluted than base metals. And these rare metals are called neodymium, gallium, germanium, cobalt, tungsten. There are a handful of such resources which are more diluted, which means that if you are digging in the Earth's crust and you can, for example, get 1 kilogram of refined iron in the Earth's crust, for the same amount of rock extracted from the Earth, you'll get 1 gram of neodymium. For a while, the humankind has just relied on base metals. That was way enough for its needs. But in the 70s, 80s, our world started to become more technological. We wanted more IT, and we wanted more miniaturization, small, little objects in our pockets. And basically, these new technologies, much more efficient, started to use and to need more of these rare metals because these metals have exceptional chemical and physical properties. For the same volume of such rare metals, you come up with a much better strength, much better efficiency of anything, of any device, of any object in your daily life. It's very likely that by the end of the day, you will have used and consumed about 60 metals. And why? Well, it's because you have these metals in your phone. I mean, here's an iPhone, and basically in this iPhone, there are 50 to 60 metals. You don't even know about that, but basically you have a battery, which is made of lithium, cobalt, graphite, manganese, copper. Also, there is another resource which is fascinating for your phone. This resource is called indium. Indium, when you turn it into a powder, we call it an oxide. When you turn that indium into a powder, basically you cover the screen of your phone with this powder of indium, and that makes your phone tactile. Think about the time where you didn't have indium in your life. That was a time where you would have like a Nokia 6310. Another industry which is very much reliant, heavily reliant over these rare metals is the green technologies. What are wind turbines made of? They're made of metals, and the offshore wind turbines need a magnet of neodymium. So basically you can't make an offshore wind turbine without these resources. But also think about electric cars. Electric cars have a battery. The battery is about 1/3 of the total weight of an electric car. And such batteries, for most of them today, are being made of lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese. They're also made of more abundant resources, but very strategic metals such as copper. But also, the defense industry is heavily reliant on metals, and more specifically rare metals. You don't need many of them in terms of volumes. Think about the fact that for all of your needs, the defense industry probably represents 1% of all your needs for metals and rare metals. It's very few in terms of volumes. But if you don't have these resources, you actually can't manufacture many defense technologies. We live in this world of resources. We have no ideas they do exist. But if they were not existing, our life would be way different. That would be the life of our parents or of our grandparents, but not the life of the 21st century. So this is monazite, and this is a mineral out of which you extract neodymium, which is a very heavily important metal for all our technologies today. You find neodymium in electric cars, in the motors of electric cars. You find neodymium in high-precision guided missiles. The magnets of your phone, the magnet is made of neodymium, iron and boron, and this small magnet makes your phone vibrate. So the silent mode actually can be only made if you extract the metal from this rock. These metals have superpowers, and it's common language to talk about their superpowers, comparing to the regular powers of base metals. And you can certainly make a parallel with the Hollywood universe or the Marvel universe of all these wonderful resources, such as kryptonite and other Superman resources, which certainly give superpowers to the people who are using it in the fiction world. But actually, you can make a parallel with the real world. These resources give you superpowers. Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, is sometimes tweeting, and he tweets, "I need spice." And when he talks about that, he means I need nickel. Nickel is a metal which is very necessary for the batteries of Tesla cars. And Elon Musk is looking for nickel everywhere he can in order to produce the batteries of his cars. He says, I need spice. What is he talking about? He's making reference to Dune, to the novel, to the spice that gives you long life.
In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving.
There were countries back in the 70s who used to produce these metals for the rest of the planet, and more specifically rare earths, which is a specific family of rare metals. And these rare earths were produced in Australia and in the United States. These two countries were extracting the rock. And half of these rare earths were being refined in France. But the extraction in Australia and in the United States, plus the refining in France, were dirty. And people back in the 70s, 80s, didn't want that pollution. So they started to complain about that. And due to the pressure of the public, authorities in this country started to close the mines and to close the refineries. So we transferred the production of these rare earths, but of a handful of other rare metals, from the north to what we would call today the Global South. Democratic Republic of Congo, Bolivia, Kazakhstan, and a handful of other countries in Africa, Asia, or Latin America. At the same time, China realized that they have, very important resources, important reserves in its underground. And there was kind of a deal between China and the West, where the West said, I want to clean myself, I want to be clean. And China said, I have decades of economic delay comparing to the West. So I need to develop myself, and I can produce these metals for the West.
The things Deng saw and heard while visiting developed capitalist countries made him realize that if China was to catch up with the rest of the world, it had to find a path of development adapted to its own situation.
Here comes Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping is said to have visited one of the biggest rare earth deposits on Earth, which is situated in the autonomous province of Inner Mongolia. And we are in 1992. And we think he said the Middle East has oil and China has rare earths. So if Deng Xiaoping said that, that means that China very timely, comparing to the Western countries, understood that these rare metals, these rare earths, which are part of the rare metals family, will play a very important, very strategic role in our future and modern economies. So this is antimony, and this is a mineral which is being used, among other things, for hardening the bullets of weapons. So this is a very strategic element for the defense industry today. And the thing is that this antimony is today being produced mostly by China. So it brings a lot of issues in the United States whether they're going to be able to produce their own antimony. So they want to open antimony mines in the United States right now to be able to circumvent the Chinese leadership on this very critical mineral.
那逼着我们呀，靠自己走自力更生的道路。我们现在制造业是世界上最大的，大而全是有的，但是这个高精尖上我们还是有不少的短板，要继续攀登。
China is also telling to the Dutch, you guys, you don't sell milk to the rest of the world. You sell cheese. They're saying to the French, you guys in France, you don't sell grapes. You sell wine. So we're not going to sell rare metals. We're going to sell added value technologies with the metals inside. And progressively producing not the minerals, but the metal, not producing the metal, but the magnets, not producing the magnets, but the anodes and the cathodes for manufacturing the batteries of electric cars and eventually manufacturing electric cars. Today, China accounts for 80% of the production of solar panels. China accounts for 87% of the world production of magnets, which are critical for phones, for electric cars. China accounts for 75% of the world production of EV batteries, and China accounts for the production of more than half of electric cars around the world. So this is a serious situation where a leadership in these new technologies, in these new markets, is at stake, and Europe today is lagging behind China. We are late. We are 2 decades late.
Green and digital technologies currently depend on a number of scarce raw materials. 98% of the rare earth elements we need come from a single supplier, China. And this is not sustainable.
So basically, we are changing dependencies. We are shifting dependencies. We're moving from one dependency upon oil-producing countries to another dependency upon critical, rare, strategic metals producing country. We're entering a new world, a new geopolitics, a geopolitiks of critical minerals.
Vanaf 1 september zijn er nieuwe beperkingen voor de export van chipmachines van ASML naar China. Dat heeft het kabinet vandaag bekendgemaakt. Die regels betekenen dat ASML voor de hoogwaardigste chipmachines dan standaard een exportvergunning moet aanvragen. Het gaat om bescherming van technologie, zegt de minister.
Following the Trump administration, the Biden administration requested its allies to stop exports of certain critical cutting-edge technologies to China. So basically, China has troubles, has difficulties catching its delay compared to the West in these chip technologies because it can't access every technologies, among other things, produced by a Dutch company. So what did China do?
De eerste salvo's zijn gelost in de chipoorlog tussen China en het Westen. En ook Nederland is daarbij betrokken met de exportban op geavanceerde chipmachines van ASML. Komende week gaat die officieel in, maar China heeft al teruggeslagen door beperkingen in te voeren op de export van gallium en germanium. Dat zijn belangrijke grondstoffen bij de productie van halfgeleiders en dat zijn chips. Maar de vraag is of het daarbij blijft en de vrees is van niet.
what is China doing? China is retaliating to the Western trade war. That doesn't mean that in the reality that such export figures are going down. China is just announcing that it may hamper these exports in the future. So that is a way to flex its muscles. That is a warning sign. Countries are playing upon the leverage that they have with these resources, and they are using these resources as a diplomatical tool, as a geopolitical weapon. Over the last 10 years, I've been several times to China, and several times either in the mines or in the refineries. What you see is obviously a very dirty extraction and dirty refining process. You see dump sites where all this dirt from the mines is just being rejected in the illegal dumping sites. There is no treatment of the rejections, so basically it's water polluted and filled with heavy metals, which just goes into the nature. And there used to be people living in what they would call cancer villages. When you separate the rare earths from other resources which are mixed in the Earth's crust, such as thorium, it emanates radioactivity. And one official actually said to me openly, China has sacrificed its environment to feed the rest of the world with rare earths. If you want to make something green, you have to put some dirtiness somewhere. Nothing is green, nothing is clean, nothing is zero emission. Everything comes at a cost. The thing is, for the last decades, we haven't seen that cost because we have outsourced the production of the resources, of the metals, and we have outsourced the pollution to foreign countries, usually thousands of kilometers away from European countries, in places where nobody goes. So because there is such a distance between where you use the resource in the form of a green car and the place where this resource is being extracted with all the impacts, because you don't see it, you have the certainty to actually do good for the planet, but someone has to pay the price. So with many respect, this is a pure greenwashing, because you claim to be green, but actually the dirt is under the carpet somewhere else. And in that respect, the energy transition is probably the biggest greenwashing operation we've ever heard in history.
Wist je dat pure energie de allergroenste energiemaker van Nederland is?
Maar je kan toch niet alles klimaatneutraal maken?
Nou, Heineken doet het nu.
Ons bier is duurzaam gebrouwen.
En KPN ook.
Ons internet is ook duurzaam.
Ik doe mee met Van de Bron. En dat betekent 100% groene energie, echt uit Nederland.
Sneller klimaatneutraal worden? We doen het nu.
Don't get me wrong. We need to do the energy transition. I'm not saying here that we should keep using oil and coal. Obviously not. I can't wait for the day where we're going to stop using all these resources which are turned into CO2 emissions. I want to have the energy transition taking place as soon as possible. But we need to understand that given the huge amount of resources which are needed for making this world greener, given the countries where these resources are being extracted, given the electricity that is being needed to refine the resources in countries where the electricity comes from coal and oil, there is a risk that we don't actually replace one problem one by one another.
Om de afhankelijkheid van China te verkleinen, wil Europa onder andere in eigen bodem op zoek naar deze grondstoffen. Silicium voor zonnepanelen wordt bijvoorbeeld in Noorwegen uit kwarts gewonnen. De metalen die nodig zijn voor windmolens komen we in heel Scandinavië tegen. Daar vind je ook lithium en kobalt. Maar ook landen als Frankrijk en Spanje hebben grote voorraden. Dit betekent dat er dus overal in Europa mijnen zouden moeten worden geopend.
Reopening mines in populated countries will be a difficult task because everyone has been told for the last 10 years that our cars were green and that our cars were clean. And now we're telling them, oh, we forgot to tell you something. We're going to have to dig a hole in order to drive green. People are not aware of that. They just didn't know. They listen to ads on TV. You want to have your green car, emitting no CO2 in your country or in the cities where you live, but you let the dirty stuff being extracted by poor people in the global south. That world has been the perfect world for a European consumer. All the dirt, my dirt, is elsewhere, why I can claim to be responsible towards the next generations. This hypocrisy is not possible anymore. But we have to go over this hypocritical behavior and accepting that we, as European consumers, must pay a certain price. We envisioned a wonderfully green world, zero emissions, but no one asks the question, where are we going to get these freaking metals?
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
The COP21, the Paris Agreements, back in 2015. Oh, we were so happy. You know, Laurent Fabius, the head of the negotiations, came with this little tool and he said, okay, I declare that the Paris Agreement has been signed. Everyone started to cry and to fall in each other's arms. That was the wonderful energy transition coming to reality. Nowhere in this 29-page treaty does the word mining, minerals, metals, mining resources appear. Nowhere. There are several solutions, but the first solution is to accelerate the recycling economy and the circular economy. The good news is you don't burn metal like you burn oil. So basically, once you have used the metal, you still have the metal physically in your hand, so you can reuse it. So we have to develop the recycling and the circular economy of batteries, phones, whatever kind of device, in order to make a new phone out of an old phone, in order to make a new battery out of an old battery. This is very tricky because first, we need to think about objects when we design them. We need to think about the way they're going to be recycled. So the future of recycling will be to find the appropriate business models so that the resource out of recycling is more competitive than the resource out of mining. Otherwise, people will keep going to the mine and they won't use the metal which could be recycled or which is available for recycling. No question pops up, which is, but will we still need lithium and graphite and rare earths for future energy transition, or will these resources be replaced by substitutes with a lesser impact on the environment? So there is a possibility that all these issues that we have brought to the table here may not exist in the medium or long-term future because we will have found alternatives. There is a new form of batteries, which is lithium iron phosphates batteries. These batteries are less efficient, they are less easily recyclable, they have other drawbacks, but they are less expensive and they use less of some critical resources. So the substitutes show that the future is also in chemistry. We need to keep faith, in a way, and optimism in the potentiality to actually have the energy transition based on other resources, on other technologies, that the technologies and resources we are relying on today.
We need sustainable energy now. To solve sustainable energy, we have to have a pickup truck.
There is an issue which should absolutely be addressed and that no one really wants to address. It is how do we consume the new technologies? And that is a huge question which touches upon a certain sobriety in the way you consume, which is not being addressed today in a world where growth is a motto, but which will have to be addressed if we don't want to just replace all the issues of oil by the new issues coming with the lithium or the rare earth age.
What do you want people to take away from your story?
I would love people to better understand that there is a material reality between everything they do. There is a material reality behind the metaverse or the AI or all these dematerialized technologies. Everything is very much material. What you see all around here is a concrete implication of your consumption behavior. As a consumer, you have to relate everything that you do to what we see all around us. And you have to relate the impact of mining on your personal behavior, on your everyday lifestyle choices.